There are people right now, confused, hurt, and asking one question: why is everything falling apart in my life right when I'm ready for marriage? People disappearing, plans collapsing, hearts breaking, and it feels like loss. But what if I told you, this is not loss? This is preparation. Because before Allah gives you something as serious as marriage, He removes things from your life that would have destroyed it. And most people completely misunderstand this stage. They think Allah is taking away from them, but in reality, Allah is protecting their future. Chapter 1. Allah removes the wrong people. Before marriage, Allah will often remove people you were emotionally attached to, people you thought you needed, people you imagined a future with, people you mentally included in your plans without even realizing it. And when they leave, it does not feel small. It feels heavy. It feels confusing. It feels personal. You start questioning everything. Why did this happen? What did I do wrong? Why did they change? And slowly, the mind begins to turn it into rejection. It tells you that you were not enough. It tells you that you lost something valuable. It tells you that you missed your chance. But that is where most people misunderstand what is happening. Not everyone you love is written for you. This is one of the hardest realities to accept because emotions make things feel permanent. When you care about someone, your mind starts building a future around them. You begin to imagine conversations that have not happened yet, moments that do not exist yet, and a life that was never actually guaranteed. So when that person leaves, it feels like your future was taken away. But the truth is, that future was never yours to begin with. Some people come into your life to teach you something about yourself. They expose your weaknesses, your attachments, your expectations. They show you how easily your heart can become dependent on someone other than Allah. Some people are distractions. They occupy your time, your energy, your focus. They pull you away from growth, from discipline, from clarity. You may feel attached to them, but that attachment is not leading you anywhere stable. And some people are tests. They are there to see whether you will prioritize your emotions or your obedience to Allah, whether you will hold on to what feels good or let go for the sake of what is right. If every person you became attached to was allowed to stay in your life, your heart would become divided. Part of you would be attached to one person, another part attached to someone else, another part stuck in the past. And a divided heart is unstable. Marriage requires emotional clarity. It requires presence. It requires a heart that is not carrying unfinished attachments and unresolved connections. Because if your heart is still holding on to people from your past, you will bring those attachments into your future. You may not speak about them, but they will affect your behavior, your expectations, and your ability to fully commit. This is why Allah removes certain people before marriage. Not randomly, not carelessly, but with complete knowledge of what is ahead of you. Sometimes the removal is sudden. There is no closure, no explanation, no proper ending, and that is what makes it even harder to accept. But closure is not always necessary for healing. What you need is understanding. Allah sees what you do not see. He knows what that person would have become in your life later. He knows the damage they could have caused to your peace, your faith, or your future marriage. So He removes them early. You think you are losing someone important, but in reality, you are being protected from a future you would not have been able to handle. And the mistake many people make is that they chase what Allah has already removed. They try to reconnect. They try to hold on. They try to bring back something that was taken away for a reason. This only increases the pain, because you are fighting a decision that was made with wisdom far beyond your understanding. Letting go is not weakness, it is alignment. It is accepting that Allah's plan is more accurate than your emotions. So when someone leaves your life before marriage, do not rush to label it as loss. Look deeper. Ask yourself what that connection was really bringing into your life. Was it stability or confusion? Was it growth or distraction? Was it clarity or emotional dependency? Because not every connection is meant to last, and not every ending is a failure. Sometimes, the removal of the wrong person is the first step toward the right future. Allah is not taking away your chance at happiness. He is removing what would have prevented it. Chapter 2. Allah removes haram attachments. This is where things become more painful. Because not every attachment feels wrong. Some of them feel real. Some feel deep. Some feel like they understand you in a way no one else does. You talk to them every day. You think about them constantly. You start building an emotional world around them. And slowly, without even realizing it, your heart becomes tied to them. But the problem is not how strong the feeling is. The problem is how it began. If a connection is built in a way that displeases Allah, it does not matter how sincere it feels. It does not matter how long it lasts. It does not matter how emotionally attached you become. It cannot carry barakah. And anything without barakah will eventually break. This is what most people refuse to accept. They believe that because their intentions are good, the relationship will somehow become right over time. They convince themselves that it will eventually turn into something halal, so the beginning does not matter. But that is not how things work. What starts wrong does not suddenly become right just because you feel strongly about it. And Allah knows something you do not. He knows what this attachment is doing to your heart. He knows how it is affecting your focus, your discipline, your relationship with Him. He sees the dependency forming. He sees the distraction growing. He sees how your emotional state is being controlled by someone who is not even committed to you. So He removes it. And when He does, it does not feel like mercy. It feels like something has been ripped out of you. Because you were not just attached to a person, you were attached to the feeling they gave you, the attention, the comfort, the validation. And when that disappears, you feel empty. You keep checking your phone. You replay old conversations. You wonder if you should reach out again. And this is the test. Will you go back to what Allah removed, or will you accept that it was taken for a reason? Many people fail here. They go back. They reopen the connection. They continue the same pattern. And then they wonder why their life feels stuck, why their heart feels heavy, why nothing moves forward. Because they are holding on to something that was already removed once. When Allah removes a haram attachment, it is not just about that one person. It is about purification. It is about clearing your heart before something serious like marriage enters your life. Because if you carry a haram attachment into marriage, it does not just disappear. It stays in your thoughts. It affects your expectations. It creates comparisons. And slowly, it damages what could have been a peaceful relationship. This is why Allah cuts it off before you reach that stage. Not to hurt you, but to protect what is coming. And sometimes He removes it without giving you closure. No final explanation, no proper ending, no clear reason. And that is intentional. Because closure is often just an excuse to stay connected longer. What you need is not closure. What you need is acceptance. Acceptance that if something was taken away in a way that pulls you closer to Allah, then it was never meant to remain in your life. Purification does not feel comfortable. It feels like loss at first. But what you are actually losing is not something valuable. You are losing what would have eventually damaged you. So, instead of asking, "Why did this end?" ask yourself, "What was this doing to my heart?" Was it making you stronger in your deen or weaker? Was it bringing you peace or constant emotional instability? Was it pushing you toward Allah or pulling you away, because anything that distances you from Allah cannot be a blessing, no matter how good it feels. And this is the reality most people avoid. They want the feeling without the responsibility, the connection without the boundaries, the attachment without the consequences. But Allah does not allow that to continue forever. At some point, He intervenes, and when He does, you have two choices. You either accept the removal and grow from it, or you resist it and repeat the same pain again. So when a haram attachment is removed from your life before marriage, do not see it as something being taken away from you. See it as your heart being cleaned, because marriage is not just about finding the right person, it is about becoming the right person. And a heart that is still tied to what Allah has forbidden is not ready for something He has made sacred. Chapter 3. Allah removes your illusions about love. Most people think they understand love, but in reality, they understand a version of love that was shaped by movies, social media, and imagination. A version where everything feels easy, where the other person always understands you, where there is constant attention, constant excitement, constant emotional highs. This version of love feels good to think about, but it is not real. And if you enter marriage with this mindset, you are not entering a relationship. You are entering a fantasy. So before marriage, Allah breaks these illusions. Not gently, but clearly. He allows you to experience situations where your expectations are not met. You give your time, but it is not returned the same way. You care deeply, but the other person does not match that level. You expect consistency, but you face unpredictability, and it frustrates you, because the image you had in your mind does not match what you are experiencing. This is not random. This is correction. Because real love is not built on constant emotional satisfaction. Real love is built on stability. It is built on patience when things are not perfect. It is built on responsibility even when you do not feel like it. It is built on understanding that the other person is not there to complete you, but to build a life with you. Marriage is not a place where all your emotional needs are magically fulfilled. It is a place where two people work, struggle, and grow together. And if your understanding of love is based only on feelings, you will struggle the moment those feelings change. Because feelings are not constant. They rise and fall. Some days you feel close. Some days you feel distant. If your idea of love depends only on how you feel, then your commitment will also become unstable. This is why Allah allows you to face disappointment before marriage. He shows you that not every connection will feel perfect. He shows you that people are flawed. He shows you that emotions can be misleading. So you stop relying on feelings alone and start valuing things that actually sustain a relationship. Character, consistency, respect, responsibility. These are not exciting in the beginning, but they are what keep a marriage standing in the long term. Many people ignore this stage. They continue chasing the same type of emotional highs. They move from one attachment to another, looking for a feeling that will always stay. But it never does, because they are chasing something that was never designed to be permanent. And every time it fades, they think something is wrong with the other person. But the real problem is their expectation. So Allah corrects that expectation before marriage. He lets you feel the disappointment now, so you do not destroy something real later. Because if you enter marriage expecting constant excitement, you will start questioning the relationship the moment things become normal. You will think something is missing. You will compare your reality to your imagination, and that comparison will slowly damage your satisfaction. This is why your understanding of love has to change. Love is not constant intensity. Love is consistent commitment. It is choosing someone even when the feelings are not at their peak. It is staying patient when things become difficult. It is building something stable instead of chasing something exciting. And this understanding does not come from theory. It comes from experience, from disappointment, from unmet expectations, from seeing that what you imagined is not how things actually work. So when Allah breaks your illusions about love before marriage, do not see it as something negative. See it as necessary. Because a person who understands reality can build something real, but a person who is still attached to fantasy will always feel dissatisfied, no matter who they are with. And dissatisfaction is one of the fastest ways to destroy a marriage. So this stage is not about losing hope in love. It is about understanding love correctly. So when it finally comes into your life, you do not just feel it, you sustain it. Chapter 4. Allah removes your need for validation. One of the most dangerous things a person can carry into marriage is the constant need to feel validated, to be reassured again and again, to be told you are enough, to feel wanted at all times. On the surface, it looks harmless. It feels normal to want attention, to want appreciation, to want emotional confirmation. But when this need becomes constant, it turns into dependency. And dependency destroys balance. Before marriage, Allah often puts you in situations where this validation disappears. People stop reaching out the way they used to. Messages become less frequent. The attention you were used to slowly fades, and it bothers you more than you expected. You start checking your phone more often. You overthink small changes in behavior. You wonder if you said something wrong. And deep down, what you are really feeling is this: I am not being seen the way I want to be seen. This is where the problem becomes clear. Because if your sense of worth depends on how others treat you, then your emotional state will always be unstable. One day you feel confident. The next day you feel insecure. All based on how someone responds to you. That is not strength. That is emotional dependence. And if you enter marriage like this, you will not find peace. You will constantly expect your spouse to fill that gap, to reassure you, to validate you, to keep you feeling secure at all times. But no human being can maintain that consistently. People get busy. People get tired. People have their own struggles. And the moment your expectations are not met, frustration begins. You start feeling neglected. You start questioning the relationship. You start creating problems that were not even there before. Not because your spouse is failing, but because your expectations are unrealistic. This is why Allah removes this dependency before marriage. He allows you to experience emotional silence. Moments where no one is checking on you. No one is validating you. No one is giving you the attention you were used to. And it feels uncomfortable because you are being forced to face yourself without external support. At first, you may try to replace it. You look for new people, new conversations, new sources of attention, but the pattern repeats because the issue is not the people. The issue is the need. So Allah gradually shifts your focus. He puts you in a position where you start realizing something important. Your worth does not come from people. It does not increase when someone praises you. It does not decrease when someone ignores you. Your value is not determined by how much attention you receive. It is determined by your relationship with Allah and your own internal stability. When you begin to understand this, something changes. You stop chasing validation. You stop needing constant reassurance. You become more grounded, more calm, more in control of your emotions. And this is what prepares you for marriage. Because a person who is emotionally stable does not enter a relationship to be filled. They enter it already whole. They give without constantly needing something in return. They communicate without insecurity controlling them. They handle distance and difficulty without overreacting. But a person who still depends on validation will struggle. They will turn small issues into big ones. They will constantly feel unsatisfied. They will drain the relationship without realizing it. So when Allah removes attention from your life before marriage, do not rush to replace it. Do not see it as something missing. See it as training. You are being taught how to stand on your own emotionally, how to find stability without relying on people, how to feel secure without constant reassurance. Because once you reach that point, you no longer enter marriage looking to be completed. You enter it ready to contribute. And that is the difference between a relationship that survives and one that slowly falls apart. Chapter 5. Allah removes your impatience. One of the biggest signs that someone is not ready for marriage is that they cannot handle waiting. They want things quickly. They want answers immediately. They want life to move according to their timeline. And when it does not, frustration begins. Before marriage, many people reach a point where they feel ready. They think they have done enough. They believe the time has come. They start asking, why is it still not happening? And slowly, impatience takes over. You compare yourself to others. You see people getting married around you. You feel like you are being left behind, and that feeling grows heavier with time. But what you fail to see is this: readiness is not decided by you. It is decided by Allah. And impatience is a sign that your mindset is still being shaped. Because marriage is not something you can rush. It is not a short-term experience. It is a long-term responsibility that requires emotional control, discipline, and the ability to handle delays, disagreements, and pressure without losing stability. If you cannot handle waiting before marriage, you will struggle inside marriage. Because even after marriage, things will not always go your way. There will be moments where you have to wait. Wait for understanding. Wait for change. Wait for resolution. And if impatience controls you, those moments will turn into conflict. You will react too quickly. You will speak without thinking. You will make decisions based on temporary emotions. And that damages trust. So before marriage, Allah slows things down. Not to frustrate you, but to train you. He puts you in a position where you have no choice but to wait. Opportunities get delayed. Proposals do not work out. Things almost happen, then fall apart. And it confuses you. Because from your perspective, everything seemed right. But from Allah's perspective, something was still missing. Maybe your mindset needed more stability. Maybe your character needed refinement. Maybe your reliance on Him needed to become stronger. And that takes time. Impatience makes you focus only on the result. You keep thinking about when it will happen. But patience shifts your focus to who you are becoming during the process. That is the real preparation. Because marriage is not sustained by getting what you want quickly. It is sustained by how you handle what you do not get immediately. Many people rush into marriage just to escape the feeling of waiting. They think marriage will solve their frustration, but instead, they carry that impatience into the relationship. They expect instant understanding, instant compatibility, instant solutions. And when reality does not match those expectations, they become disappointed. This is why the waiting period is necessary. It exposes your reactions. It shows you how you deal with uncertainty. It reveals whether you trust Allah's timing or only your own. And this is where most people struggle. They say they trust Allah, but when things are delayed, their actions show otherwise. They become restless. They try to force outcomes. They settle for things they know are not right, just to end the waiting. And that is where mistakes happen. Because impatience pushes you to accept what is available. Instead of waiting for what is right, So Allah delays it. Not because He is withholding something good from you, but because He is protecting you from making a decision too early. Every delay has a purpose. It is either shaping you or saving you. And most of the time, it is doing both. So when you feel like things are not moving, do not assume that nothing is happening. A lot is happening. You are being trained to slow down, to think clearly, to control your reactions, to trust a process you cannot fully see. And once you learn that, something changes. You stop chasing timelines. You stop comparing your journey to others. You become more grounded, more patient, more prepared, because now you are not just waiting for marriage. You are becoming someone who can handle it. And that is the difference. Because getting married is easy. Sustaining it requires patience that most people never developed. So if Allah is making you wait, do not fight it. Because this waiting is not empty. It is building something inside you that you will need for the rest of your life. Chapter 6. Allah removes your false identity. Most people walk into life thinking they know who they are. But if you look closely, what they call themselves is usually a collection of influences. What people told them growing up, what others expect from them, what they learn to become just to be accepted. Over time, this turns into an identity, a version of yourself that feels real, but is actually built on external validation. You behave a certain way to fit in. You speak a certain way to be liked. You present yourself in a way that gets approval. And slowly, you lose track of who you actually are. Before marriage, Allah often breaks this false identity. He removes the environment that was shaping it. People who used to define you are no longer around. Situations that kept you distracted begin to fade. The version of you that was built for others starts to collapse. And what replaces it? Silence. You find yourself alone more often, without constant interaction, without distractions to hide behind. And in that silence, something uncomfortable happens. You meet yourself, not the version people know, not the version you perform, but the real version. Your thoughts, your insecurities, your habits, your weaknesses. And this is where many people struggle, because it is easier to live with a constructed identity than to face the truth. You start realizing that some parts of you were never real. Some behaviors were learned just to please others. Some choices were made just to avoid rejection. Some beliefs were adopted without ever questioning them. And now, without those external influences, you feel uncertain. You start asking questions you never asked before. Who am I when no one is watching? What do I actually value? What kind of person am I becoming? This process feels uncomfortable because it removes your sense of control. The identity you relied on is no longer stable. But this is necessary, because marriage requires authenticity. If you enter marriage with a false identity, you will not be able to sustain it. At some point, the act will break. And when it does, confusion begins. Your spouse will not understand you. You will not understand yourself. And the relationship will struggle because it was built on something unstable. This is why Allah strips that away before you reach that stage. He forces you to confront yourself without filters, without performance, without the need to impress anyone, so you can rebuild your identity on something real, something stable, something rooted in truth, not in approval. And this takes time. You will question yourself. You will feel lost at moments. You will not always have clear answers, but that is part of the process, because clarity does not come instantly. It comes through reflection, through honesty, through facing parts of yourself you avoided before. And slowly, you begin to change. You become more aware of your actions. more conscious of your choices, more aligned with your values instead of people's expectations. You stop performing. You start living with intention. And this is what prepares you for marriage, because a person who knows who they are does not get easily shaken. They communicate clearly. They act with purpose. They do not change themselves completely just to keep someone else happy. But a person who is still living with a false identity will struggle. They will constantly adjust themselves to avoid conflict. They will lose their sense of direction. They will depend on their spouse to define them, and that creates imbalance. So when Allah removes your false identity before marriage, it is not to confuse you. It is to stabilize you, to make sure that when you enter a relationship, you are not bringing a version of yourself that cannot last. You are bringing your real self, a self that is aware, grounded, honest, because only something real can build something real, and anything built on a false version of you will eventually fall apart. Chapter 7. Allah removes your over-attachment to dunya. Many people think they want marriage, but if you look closely, they are not really seeking marriage. They are seeking relief. Relief from loneliness, relief from boredom, relief from emotional emptiness. They believe that once they get married, everything will finally feel complete, that their problems will disappear, that their heart will feel settled, that life will suddenly make sense. But this is a dangerous mindset, because marriage is not designed to fix your emptiness. If anything, it will expose it. If you are already dependent on dunya for your happiness, marriage will not remove that dependency. It will increase it. You will start expecting your spouse to fill every gap inside you, to make you feel complete, to remove your loneliness, to give your life meaning. And that is too much pressure for any human being. No one can carry that responsibility. Before marriage, Allah often removes certain comforts from your life. Things that used to make you feel satisfied no longer have the same effect. You may feel a sense of emptiness that you cannot explain. You try to fill it with distractions, scrolling, talking to people, keeping yourself busy, but the feeling does not go away, because this emptiness is not meant to be filled by dunya. It is meant to redirect you. Allah is showing you that your attachment to temporary things is too strong, that you are relying on creation to give you something only the Creator can provide. And until that is corrected, marriage will not fix anything. It will only shift your dependency from one thing to another, from distractions to a person. And that becomes dangerous, because when your emotional stability depends on someone else, any change in their behavior will affect you deeply. If they are distant, you feel lost. If they are busy, you feel ignored. If they are not emotionally available, you feel empty again. And the cycle continues. This is why Allah removes that over-attachment before marriage. He allows you to feel that emptiness without giving you an immediate solution. So you are forced to look in the right direction, not toward people, not toward distractions, but toward Him. At first, you may resist this. You may try to escape the feeling. You may look for something else to replace it. But nothing fully works. Because the problem is not what you are missing in dunya. The problem is where your heart is attached. And slowly, if you allow yourself to go through this process, something begins to shift. You start turning to Allah more. Not just out of habit, but out of need. You begin to understand that peace is not found in constant stimulation. It is found in connection with Him. And this changes everything. Because now you are no longer entering marriage as someone who is empty and looking to be filled. You are entering it as someone who already has a source of stability. You do not depend on your spouse to give your life meaning. You share your life with them, but your foundation remains with Allah. And that creates balance. You can love deeply without becoming dependent. You can give without feeling drained. You can handle changes without losing yourself. But if this correction does not happen before marriage, the consequences show later. You become overly attached, overly dependent, overly affected by small changes. And that puts pressure on the relationship. So when Allah removes certain comforts and makes you feel a level of emptiness before marriage, do not panic. Do not rush to fill it with whatever is available. Understand what is happening. You are being redirected. Your heart is being detached from what cannot truly satisfy you, so that when marriage comes, you do not treat it as your only source of happiness. You treat it as a part of your life, not the center of it. Because anything you place at the center of your life other than Allah will eventually disappoint you. And Allah does not want your future to be built on something unstable. So He corrects your attachment now, even if it feels uncomfortable. Because a heart that is attached to Allah is the only heart that can handle love without losing itself. Chapter 8. Allah removes your weak connection with Him. This is the part most people completely overlook. They focus on people being removed, opportunities being delayed, emotions changing, but they ignore the most important shift happening inside them. Their relationship with Allah is being rebuilt. Before marriage, many people have a weak or inconsistent connection with Allah. They pray, but without focus. They make dua, but only occasionally. They remember Allah when things go wrong, but forget Him when things feel fine. Their connection is there, but it is not strong. It is not something they truly rely on. So Allah changes that. He allows situations that push you back toward Him, not because He needs you, but because you need Him. He allows confusion, so you start seeking clarity through dua. He allows emotional pain, so you begin to pray with sincerity. He allows uncertainty, so you finally realize you are not in control. And slowly, your relationship with Allah stops being casual. It becomes necessary. You start turning to Him not just in routine, but in desperation. You begin to feel the difference between a distracted prayer and a sincere one. You begin to notice how your heart responds when you make dua with full attention. And this is where the transformation begins. Because a strong marriage is not built only on compatibility between two people. It is built on the connection both of them have with Allah. Without that, everything becomes fragile. Small problems feel big. Misunderstandings escalate quickly. Emotions take over logic. But when your connection with Allah is strong, your approach changes. You become more patient, more controlled, more aware of your actions. You think before you react. You forgive more easily. You hold yourself accountable instead of always blaming the other person. And this stability comes from one place, your relationship with Allah. That is why Allah strengthens this connection before marriage. Because if He gives you marriage while your connection with Him is weak, you will rely completely on your spouse for emotional stability. And when they cannot meet that expectation, everything begins to fall apart. So Allah redirects you first. He removes distractions that kept you distant from Him. He allows moments where nothing else works. So you finally turn to the only source that never fails. At first, this may feel like hardship. You may wonder why things are becoming more difficult, why you feel more pressure, why life is not going the way you expected. But what is actually happening is this. You are being brought closer. Your reliance is shifting from people to Allah, from control to trust. And once that shift happens, you become different. You are no longer easily shaken, because your stability is not coming from your circumstances. It is coming from your connection with Him. And this is what prepares you for marriage. Because marriage will test you. There will be moments of misunderstanding, moments of frustration, Moments where things do not go as planned. If your connection with Allah is weak, those moments will overwhelm you. But if your connection is strong, you will handle them with balance. You will know when to be patient, when to stay silent, when to respond with wisdom instead of emotion. So when you find yourself turning to Allah more before marriage, do not ignore it. Do not treat it as something temporary. This is not just a phase. This is preparation. Because Allah is not only arranging your future, He is strengthening you for it. And the stronger your connection with Him becomes, the more stable your marriage will be. Because in the end, it is not just about two people holding on to each other. It is about both of them holding on to Allah. Chapter 9. Allah removes your comfort zone. Most people think they are ready for marriage, but in reality, they are only comfortable where they are. They are used to a certain routine, a certain lifestyle, a certain level of control over their environment. And as long as everything stays predictable, they feel stable. But marriage does not operate inside your comfort zone. It introduces change, new responsibilities, new expectations, a new person with a different mindset, habits, and way of living. And if you are too attached to comfort, you will struggle to adjust. Before marriage, Allah often disrupts your comfort zone. Things that felt stable begin to shift. Your routine changes. Your plans stop working the way you expected. Situations become uncertain, and this makes you uncomfortable because you are no longer in control the way you were before. You cannot rely on the same patterns. You cannot predict outcomes as easily, and this is where growth begins. Because comfort creates dependency. When you are too comfortable, you stop developing. You avoid challenges. You resist change. You stay in environments that require little effort from you. But marriage demands growth. It requires you to adapt, to compromise, to handle situations that are outside your privilege, habit. If you are not used to discomfort, every challenge in marriage will feel overwhelming. Small changes will frustrate you. Differences in personality will feel like problems. Situations that require patience will feel unbearable. This is why Allah pushes you out of your comfort zone before marriage. He allows instability, not to break you, but to expand you. He puts you in situations where you have to adjust, where you cannot rely on what you are used to, where you are forced to think differently, act differently, and respond differently. And at first, this feels like things are going wrong, because your comfort is being disturbed. But in reality, you are being trained. You are learning how to function without depending on stability. You are learning how to handle uncertainty without panicking. You are learning how to grow instead of resisting change. And this is essential, because marriage will constantly require you to step outside your comfort zone. You will have to deal with situations you are not used to. You will have to understand someone who thinks differently from you. You will have to adjust your habits, your expectations, and sometimes even your lifestyle. If you are rigid, if you are too attached to how things should be, you will struggle. You will resist change instead of adapting to it. And that creates tension. But when you have already been through discomfort before marriage, your mindset is different. You do not panic when things change. You do not feel threatened by uncertainty. You understand that growth comes from adjustment. So you handle situations with more flexibility, more patience, more awareness. This is why the discomfort you feel before marriage is not random. It is preparation. Allah is breaking your dependence on ease. He is teaching you how to function when things are not perfect. Because real life is not always comfortable, and marriage is not always smooth. There will be moments where things feel difficult, moments where you have to step outside what you are used to. And if you have never learned how to handle that, those moments will feel overwhelming. So when your comfort zone starts to break, do not rush to rebuild it the same way. Do not try to escape the discomfort immediately. Pay attention to what it is teaching you. Are you becoming more adaptable, more patient, more aware of how you react under pressure? Because these are the qualities that will carry you through marriage. Not comfort, not ease, but your ability to handle change without losing stability. So when Allah removes your comfort zone before marriage, understand what is happening. You are not being pushed into chaos. You are being prepared for responsibility. Because a person who can only function in comfort will struggle in a reality that constantly changes. But a person who has learned to grow through discomfort can handle whatever comes next. Chapter 10, Allah prepares you, not just your spouse. This is where most people completely misunderstand the process. They think they are waiting for marriage, waiting for the right person to appear, waiting for the right opportunity, waiting for life to finally move forward. But the reality is different. You are not just waiting for marriage. Marriage is waiting for you. Allah is not only preparing your spouse somewhere else, He is preparing you right now in ways you may not even notice. Every delay, every removal, every difficult phase, it is not random. It is shaping you. Your patience is being tested. Your character is being refined. Your mindset is being corrected. Because marriage is not something you simply receive. It is something you must be able to sustain. And most people focus only on finding the right person. They rarely focus on becoming the right person. They have a list of what they want, but they do not question whether they are ready to handle what they are asking for. Do you have the patience to deal with another human being consistently? Do you have the emotional control to handle conflict without damaging the relationship? Do you have the discipline to stay committed even when things become difficult? These are not small questions, because marriage will expose every weakness you have. If you lack patience, it will show. If you lack emotional control, it will show. If your mindset is unstable, it will show. And this is why preparation is necessary. Allah does not rush this process, because giving you something before you are ready for it is not a blessing. It becomes a burden. If you are given marriage without the right mindset, you may ruin it. Not intentionally, but because you were not prepared to handle it. This is why things take time. Because Allah is not just arranging your future, He is building your capacity to handle it. Every experience you go through is adding something. The people who left taught you detachment. The delays taught you patience. The hardships taught you reliance on Allah. The silence taught you self-awareness. Nothing was wasted. Even the moments you thought were pointless were shaping you. And when you start seeing it this way, your perspective changes. You stop asking, when will it happen? And you start asking, am I becoming ready? Because timing is not the only factor. Readiness is. And Allah knows exactly when those two align. When you are ready, and when the right situation is ready for you, that is when things come together, not before. So if you feel like things are taking longer than expected, do not assume something is wrong. It may be that something inside you is still being built, still being corrected, still being strengthened, and rushing that process will only lead to problems later, because what comes too early often does not last. So, instead of focusing only on receiving marriage, focus on preparing for it. Work on your character. Strengthen your connection with Allah. Develop patience and emotional stability, because these are the things that will determine what happens after marriage. Not just whether you get married, but whether that marriage actually works. In the end, this is not just about finding someone to share your life with. It is about becoming someone who can build, protect, and sustain that life. And Allah knows exactly what you need to go through to reach that point. So trust the process, even when it feels slow, even when it does not make sense. Because you are not being delayed, you are being prepared. O Allah, the one who knows what is hidden in our hearts and what lies ahead in our future, we ask you to purify our hearts from every attachment that displeases you. Remove from our lives anything that will harm our future, even if we do not understand it now. O Allah, detach our hearts from what is not written for us, and make us content with what you have decreed. Cleanse our intentions, correct our desires, and make us among those who seek what is halal and pleasing to you. O Allah, prepare us for marriage in the best way. Strengthen our character, increase us in patience, and grant us emotional stability. Do not allow us to enter marriage with broken habits, weak faith, or unstable hearts. O Allah, grant us spouses who bring us closer to you, not further away from you. Spouses who strengthen our deen, who protect our peace, and who become a source of comfort in this life and the next. O Allah, put barakah in our future marriages. Protect us from conflicts that destroy relationships, from misunderstandings that break hearts, and from actions that lead to regret. Make our homes places of mercy, understanding, and tranquility. O Allah, if marriage is khair for us, then bring it to us at the right time, in the right way, with the right person. And if something we desire is not good for us, remove it from our hearts and replace it with something better. O Allah, make us among those who trust your timing, accept your decisions, and remain patient with your plan. And allow what we are going through right now to become the reason our future is strong, stable, and full of barakah. Ameen.